Hey everybody, and welcome back to another HD broadcast. Today I'm going to be looking at another 1 versus 1 on the ladder, and as you guys can see, I am currently ranked division rank 5, and if we can take a look at the rating, I'm currently 1702 on ladder. So this is continuing the ladder broadcast that I promised I would do for you guys. So I'm going to do a couple of these games. And of course, don't forget, I will be doing still the pro commentaries, pro broadcasts of better players, obviously 2000 and higher. But some of you guys might notice at the right, my Murloc Marine Suite portrait now. And I got that at BlizzCon. I just scratched the key off of my card. And I haven't had anybody say, oh my god, you went to BlizzCon, but that is the special portrait you got for going to BlizzCon. And I think it's pretty cool. I mean, most people will probably be like, oh, whatever, it's just a portrait. But I'm an artsy fartsy kind of guy when it comes down to it, and I kind of like it. But anyways, forget that. This is going to be another ladder game, and it is going to be a Zerg versus Protoss. And as you guys all see here, this is me as a Zerg player. And if you guys haven't seen my tutorial videos on all the races and how to do certain strategies and the basics, I really think you guys should check it out. Go hit the playlist button at the top of my channel, and it has all the tutorials divided out in different categories for Zerg, Protoss, or Terran. And it really does give you a kind of fundamental basic on how to play a certain build or a certain strategy and how to execute it. Now, since then, Mutaling has still been very good against Protoss, but Roaches have really become a staple unit in almost every matchup, and Roaches are almost too good not to use in Zerg versus Protoss. That 4 range is incredibly good. It can bust down fast expands. It is good against almost every unit that the Protoss can field except for Immortals and Mass Stalkers, but the Roach is an extremely good unit. So here it is. It's going to be on Lost Temple. You guys can see I have spawned in the close position to my opponent. So immediately when you see somebody spawn in the close position, it's really a hindrance to try to go for a fast 14 hatchery, because you never know when they can try to bust out a couple of gates on you. Even though they haven't put down any gateways at that pylon, still it's wise to be safe if they're spawned close to you. At least this is my opinion. Throw down a spawning pool on 14 rather than going for a 14 hatch. It might have changed if my opponent had spawned at a cross position, but that isn't the case. So I'm going to go for a 14 pool. And you guys can see I moved my drone up and I saw a chrono boost on the Nexus. So my opponent here is not going to be going for any early pressure at all. He's going to be massing up probes, and more likely than not, he's going to be going for a Forge Fast Expand, which is a very strong build. And to keep up with that, I'm going to either have to go for a 1 base Roach Bust, which is very good at breaking down a Forge FE, or I'm going to have to go for an Expand myself and try to catch up in economy. So, I kind of like to play longer term games. I mean, yes, you can bust down the walls of somebody and you can beat them really quickly, but in the long run, does that really teach you how to become a better StarCraft player? I would argue it teaches you how to execute a counter build, but it doesn't really help you exercise and increase your knowledge of StarCraft. So it's important to try to get a hatchery down and try to play it economical. If you're any race, try to play a long-term game, because it really does increase your skill set and your ability to play better. So as you guys can see, I am going to be getting my hatchery out, and my opponent did indeed go for a Forge FE. He still has not gotten any gateways yet, so with my initial Zerglings, I can do a little bit of pressure, but I'm going to not allow my opponent to get ahead of me in economy for the reasons I stated before. I'm going to instead try to beat him out, and I'm going to mostly be producing mass drones. If you guys are looking at the bottom screen, you guys can see I'm just making drones mostly. I'm not really making any units whatsoever, and with my 2 Zerglings here, I can pick off a probe. And with some small micro, you can always pull that Zergling away that's about to die and keep it alive. So when I play Zerg, I'm actually supply blocked a little bit right now, but my Overlord should be coming soon. But when I play Zerg, I always like to get 3 queens, 1 for each hatchery and 1 dedicated to spreading creep. And the reason for that is because creep is so good, and you never know when you'll need that extra queen. They're great defenders. They're especially good against air. Say your opponent comes in with a Phoenix or a Void Ray. That extra queen can be extremely helpful. So main arting my workers over to my natural. and producing that third queen that I was talking about. I have one queen at my main, one queen at my natural on the way. I also have speed being researched at the spawning pool because I am going to need speed in case my opponent comes in at a later point in time, and speed is just in general good to have. It's good to have speed. It really increases the mobility and the survival as well as the damage of your Zerglings because they'll be able to get a better surround. So as you guys can see, still producing mass drones. I'm not worried at all because I have my Scouting Overlord. I see my opponent has his Nexus up. He's most likely just making a bunch of probes, and you guys can see he's building buildings right now. So he's just now got the Cybernetics Core. He's not going to have Warp Gate for at least, or any units to make an attack with for another 2 minutes or so. And these timings come with practice. So you guys can see I'm still not worried at all. I still have my 2 initial Zerglings. I'm mass producing drones. And one thing I should be doing is spreading the creep, but you know, when you're watching a game that you play afterwards, like if you watch a replay, you always tend to notice things that you could have done a little bit better, and those are one of the things I could have done a little bit better. So right now I am getting a couple of spine crawlers up. In fact, I'm getting 3 or 4, and the reasoning for that is because he most likely has 2 gateways right now. He could potentially chrono boost about 3 or 4 zealots and make an attack. So like I said, always better to be safe rather than sorry. And on a map like Lost Temple, it's very easy to build spine crawlers, one on the high ground or even a couple on the high ground and a bunch on the low ground. It really is impossible for your forces to break down a spine crawler wall, and like I said, always better safe than sorry. So I'm getting about 3 or 4 crawlers up right now, just for defensive purposes. You guys will also notice I built my Spire, so my Spire is on the way, and I'm harvesting all 4 gases right now. You will need all 4 gases in order to make all the mutas that you'll need to make an attack. So this is basically the 2-hatch muta build. And as the game goes on, I'll try to transition into roaches because roaches are just too good now. They're an insanely good unit against Protoss. So also, of course, making my Overseer because sometimes opponent will try to get a tricky Stargate and pump out like a Void Ray Phoenix combination. So you will want to get that Scouting Overlord in even if your opponent goes for Fast Expand, because now's around the time when they can opt to go for, rather than going for Mass Warp Gate off the Cybernetics Core, they might go for a Stargate or Robotics Facility. So moving my Overseer in to scout what my opponent is doing, now I'm making all my muta lists. If you look at the bottom, I just produced all of my mutas. And this is just one of the basic tips of StarCraft, but you don't have to be looking at your base to build units. You can be scouting with your Overlord and using your hotkeys to build the mutas you need. So that's what I did right there. And hotkeys, really an essential thing in StarCraft. Learn to love them, learn to use them. A very, very good skill to have. So my opponent does indeed have a Phoenix, so he does have Stargates. And this is a good move from my opponent because I'm going mutas. I think he probably just assumed that I was getting mutas because obviously mutas are so good against Protoss when they fast expand. So it's wise that he went for Phoenix. And it's important for me to keep that Phoenix countdown, but I'm going to move in here to this natural, pick off as many probes as I possibly can. These probes, every single one so valuable. And I already noticed that he didn't really have that many probes. Instead, he's got a ton of warp gates. So maybe he cut his probe production. Maybe he's forgot to Maynard earlier. But he does have the potential to make a pretty damaging attack. And so I will have to fall back to my spine crawler wall. And this is where being safe rather than sorry really does kick in. He's got a crap ton of zealots. And with all of my spine crawlers, and he has Phoenix as well. So if I didn't have spine crawlers, I might have been in trouble. But that was an easy cleanup. And now I can use, well, I'm going to have to keep my mutas away from the Phoenix, but I am going to be able to pick off those Stalkers by using my Zerglings. So notice when you're playing certain counter units that'll still work. You don't have to hide all the way in the back of your base. You can send your Lings out, take out the Stalkers, because the Phoenix aren't going to do anything. And all the meanwhile, you can get expansions, and around this time you really do want to get your 3rd or possibly your 4th expansion. Maybe even go for a double expand. You guys can see I've got all these minerals and resources, and so now's the time when you want to push out, secure your expansions. And unfortunately I can't get the gold expand, but I'm going to move my spine crawlers forward anyways to establish a more forward position. So you guys should have seen me move the spine crawlers earlier a little bit. They're basically at the Xel'Naga watchtower right now, and there they are. So the spine crawlers, most of them have been planted down. I actually didn't notice that 2 of them weren't yet. But I still have Mutalisk in the air. I still have air control. And all too often when you're playing, you kind of tend to forget that you can harass. Why not dip in? Because not only does it provide you good scouting information, but it also allows you to harass the workers. It forces the opponent to play defensively, and so it's key to be able to harass. And there, I left my mutas on the perch. Didn't really pay attention to them, but I forced my opponent to be a little more defensive, move his units around and about. And during that entire time, I was really focused on macroing. So you guys can see now, I'm making a transition into Roach Hydra with upgrades, both upgrades ticking at the same time. So I am going to transition into a much more solid composition of Roaches and Hydras, which, by the way, just Roaches in general are so good. I think I've said that like 4 or 5 times right now, but they really are a staple unit in Zerg play. A couple of Hydras backed up as well can help to pick off the Phoenix, and that was really the reason why I went for Hydras. Otherwise, I might have just went for Mass Roach. So here we go, moving in with the mutas once again, and not only did I get to harass, but I got to scout my opponent, so exactly what I was saying before. And I see that he is getting Twilight Council as well as a Dark Shrine, so he's gonna try to go for Dark Templar, which are very, very good in late game Zerg versus Protoss. If they split the DTs, you don't have Overseers, they can actually kill off a lot of drones. So I am going to have to make some Overseers right now, and I am making 2 somewhere right there, 1 maybe. So I have some Overseers in production. I have quite a few Roaches and Hydras, and I'm just camped outside my opponent's base. So you can make an attack if you feel like you have the confidence, and you don't really have to overcommit. If you feel like he has too many forces, fall back. But in this case, I'm pushing in. I see that my opponent really was making that transition into Twilight Council, Dark Templar tech. Didn't really have as many units as he should have, and it's a good opportunity for me to make an attack. So basically just going to push in here and pretty much win the game. So there's the Overseer, get the Vision of the High Ground so I can kill off those Stalkers. And yeah, that's one of my ladder games, Zerg versus Protoss. I think that it's a pretty good match. I think it shows how to play Zerg at a basic level. It teaches you how to counter certain units and the importance of moving in with the Mutalisk and harassing, so you can scout your opponent, you can see what he's doing, but not only that, you can kill probes. So my opponent here did move some Zealots out. I'm going to take that out. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. I guess I hesitate to call it tutorial because it's also a ladder game, but it's a tutorial slash ladder, whatever you want to call it. And once again, this was a high-level Zerg versus Protoss, decently high level. I think my opponent was 1700, and I am 1700 as well. And that's pretty much it. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. There's my sweet Murloc inside a Marine. I wonder if the Terrans will ever recruit Murlocs, if they ever get that desperate to fight for the Dominion or the Confederacy. But yeah, there's my opponent, 1792. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll have more ladder games coming out in the near future, and I'll also have pro commentaries. Don't forget, I'll still be doing pro games. So thanks a lot, guys, for all your support, and stay tuned and make sure to hit that subscribe button. HD signing out because I didn't say it in the last video. Peace out, guys.